Don't hit you in the face?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, this is an exclusive video just for my patrons. You guys have probably noticed recently that I said I was going to hire a marketing and social media person, and I am currently interviewing people for that position. But I wanted to come to you today and share with you the employee that I've already had for like 6 months. This is Nate.
Hello, everyone.
And you guys have seen Nate's work. Even if you're not familiar with what he's doing, he is actually editing most of the videos. I brought him on about 6 months ago just to take some of the weight off of me, help me get those videos out more quickly and at a higher level of quality. And he's been good for that. And today, I wanted you guys just to get to know him a little bit because he is an integral part of this business. I'm trying really hard not to laugh.
Thank you.
It's hard to sit on camera while people are complimenting you. It's really difficult. So Nate, how old are you?
I am 28.
28, and what are you doing with your life right now?
I have a paycheck job where I deliver food and supplies, but I also act, edit, and then I'm breaking into writing, podcasting, and continuing my own YouTube and painting, that sort of thing.
Wait, don't you go to school?
Yes, I do go to school. Yes, yeah.
That's what I thought you were gonna lead with, oh, I'm in college right now.
Yes, I am in college. Yes.
Are you full-time or part-time?
Part-time.
And where are you going?
Tri-C West in Parma.
Okay, Tri-C West. So you are 28 and you're doing college right now, so that gives us a little bit of a missing time gap there. So in between high school and you started school like a year ago.
Yeah.
That sounds like an interesting story. What were you doing in that time?
Well, I started acting about 3 years ago. Well, acting again about 3 years ago. So about when I was 25. Before then, there was a lot of work, a lot of, tumultuous growing up things going on. An unfortunate amount else, I think. I did travel out of the country a couple times with my mom, but wasn't doing too much creatively or anything like that, not expanding my bounds too much outside of when I went to Chicago a few times to do slam poetry.
Okay. So you're at kind of a new phase in your life right now where you've been doing other things for a while, but now you're trying to be more career-oriented and more creative?
Absolutely.
I'll tell you a quick story. When I was in college, I met a guy I was a sophomore and he was a sophomore, but he was 26 years old. And he was a very impressive, intelligent guy. His name was Steve. And one day I was like, Steve, how are you 26 and you're a sophomore in college? What were you doing for the last 5 years? And he looked me in the eye and he said, drugs.
Drugs, yeah.
He's just very matter of fact about it. No, I was doing drugs,
yeah.
But now that's over and I'm in school. I was like, okay, that is a very fair answer, I guess. Let's go to English class.
Yeah. Yeah, it's along those lines.
Shh. Yeah. So, what are you studying in school?
Currently, I'm in Honors English. The focus of my studying was going to be filmmaking. So far, that still seems to be the course I want to be on, but I haven't really started the class load that satisfies that.
So a lot of prerequisites right now.
Yeah, a lot of prerequisites.
Yeah, that's going to happen. Wait, hold on. I totally had a question in mind, and now I forgot about it. I'm going to edit this part out.
Oh, okay.
I should have taken some notes before I did this.
Yeah, there's a pad of paper right
there. There's a pad of paper right there. I could have used that. Hold on, I can do this. Oh, so I wanted to ask you about acting.
Yes.
So you actually get paid to act?
Yes, both stage and film.
So would it be reasonable to say that you're a semi-professional actor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So I did, my patrons don't know this, I did a lot of acting in my teenage years. I did school stuff, I did community theater. It's one of the first things I ever wanted to do professionally, but I got sort of disillusioned with it and I started playing in rock bands and that was the end of that. So I never got paid a cent for acting and that seems insane to me. So one of the things that I find super impressive about Nate is that he gets paid money to get on stage and act, which sounds to me like moving to Mars. So what's that? I know from my own experience that getting paid to do the thing you love is less glamorous than people think it is.
Yes, absolutely.
What's it like being a real paid actor?
Oh boy, it's not getting to just be in the space and acting and playing with the show and there's a very okay, this is how much time we have. This is when we open. We need to get these 3 to 4 weeks, 4 hours 5 days a week, and really crunch it and get to the end product. The real joy of it comes, my favorite day at least, is opening night. Opening night when it's all really coming together. There's an audience there, no matter what size, and it's just sort of, we've really just been given the reins of the thing.
That does sound really exciting.
Yeah, I love opening night.
It doesn't surprise me to hear you say that there's a lot more red tape and a lot more ridiculousness, because a lot of people say to me, oh, you must just get to do woodwork all day, every day. And I'm like, you have no idea how little time I actually get to spend in the shop.
Oh, yeah.
So much of my job is just bureaucratic nonsense that now I've offloaded some of that to you,
Yes.
which has been wonderful. If somebody wanted you to describe what it is you do here for this channel, what would you tell them?
Well, obviously I would tell them that I edit, but then if I edit the videos, but if I had to explain what that meant exactly, I would say that probably meant formatting the story of the project.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? What does
Right.
formatting the story mean?
Well, it's easy enough to do sort of a cooking channel thing of like, here's all the pieces of wood that I have, and eventually we're going to end up with this tool tote or this bench. Yeah,
right.
And here it is right out of the oven. But there is a process involved,
Right.
and that process involves both audio and video components, and the clearest and outside of just having the camera on yourself for probably 3 or 4 days, just sort of live streaming exactly every process as it goes. You want to cut that down to a condensable whole for people to take in, while still being clear about the process that was involved. And so it's like, here I am doing this, and this, as you know. And so it's sort of my pleasure to be able to take the pieces of that, and because you'll have 10 minutes of footage on
Sawing.
yeah, and then it's then there's 2 seconds of it.
I'm constantly shocked by the amount of footage that essentially gets wasted. I will shoot routinely for 15 minutes and
Right.
use 5 seconds.
Yeah, and so there's that thing. You did sawing for 10 minutes, but in 2 seconds it's easy to communicate. I sawed this, and it went from this to this.
I think one of the most important parts of this channel is that we're trying to communicate things.
Yep.
It's not documentary style, and it's not nearly as entertainment focused. I want it to be entertaining, but what I'm really trying to do is communicate information very concisely.
Absolutely.
One of the really interesting things about bringing Nate on is that I had my own editing style, and I liked the way I did things, and especially early on, there were a lot of moments where I'd see an edit he did, and I'd be like, that is not the way I would have done that. And then 2 seconds later, I'm like, oh, that's not the way I would have done that. And then it goes from being a terrible thing to being a good thing, and I've noticed having a different pair of eyes come in. And the thing that happens a lot, which I really appreciate, is I'm kind of a talker, which everyone's noticed, and there will be times where I'm watching the edit and I'm like, Nate, didn't I talk about tool selection and this and that over there? And he'll be like, oh yeah, I cut that out. That was boring.
It's frivolous.
I got rid of it. And at first I have that anger. I'm like, what the hell? Oh no, you're right. You're right. This video is already 15 minutes long. I can't talk about hand planes again for 10 minutes. That's not going to make any sense. So yeah, I think that's a really good way of describing what you do. And for me, it's a tremendous relief to be able to hand the files to somebody and be like, you deal with this nightmare while I go back in the shop and try to get started on the next thing or do some promotion. And Nate always does that. There have been times where I've handed him a pile of footage that I thought was a disaster, and I go in and he's like, whatever, it's like every other week. It's fine. You don't ever seem fazed by that, which I appreciate, because even though the videos all look really similar at the end point, the process for making them is frequently very, very different. And sometimes the pile of footage I'm working with is not great. Getting a finished product out of that is super not easy. I know what you're doing now, and I know what you did in the past. What are you hoping to do with your career, moving forward? What's the trajectory you're hoping to have?
Working for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly focusing on writing, voice acting, podcasts, that sort of thing. And being able to just, even if I'm working for someone else, like on a project, really being my own boss, and also being able to remain creative.
Yeah. There's a famous quote about democracy, that it's the worst system except for every other system. And I really think being self-employed is the exact same thing. It's awful except all the alternatives are so much worse.
Absolutely.
I've had a million jobs. I went to school for a super long time. I've had white collar jobs. I've had blue collar jobs, and I absolutely despise having jobs.
Absolutely.
This is so much harder and so much higher stress and lower paid than most of the stuff I've done in my life, but I like it more. When something's good, I can take credit for it, and when something is bad, I know who to blame.
Yeah.
And there's never any ambiguity. You either hit or you sit.
Yeah.
And I know when I've hit, and I know when I haven't done a good job. And you definitely strike me as somebody who has the capacity to say, well, I screwed that up. Oh, well, back to the drawing board.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the biggest key to this. How do you feel like the work you're doing here fits in with your eventual career goals?
Well, I like learning a new skill set.
Because you didn't edit before you came in.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
No. It was a lot of just cutting out the ums and silences in my own footage. But this is more about, really, like I said, like making sure that there's a coherent beginning and end, and there's something in the middle for people to take in the video. I'm learning a lot, obviously, about woodworking, which I'm interested in, and editing is really great. There's something about there's something about just sitting down and having these things to work with and just putting it all together. It's something I could absolutely see myself doing. You
know what's interesting is that editing is actually one of my favorite parts of the job, and I never would have wanted to offload it to somebody else, except I have a history of tendonitis in my hands. And usually day to day it doesn't bother me and I don't have pain, but when I'm on the computer for long periods of time, my hands start hurting and my left hand starts to go numb. Mousing and keyboarding is it's terrible for your body. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on. I didn't want to hand the editing over to somebody else. I wanted to keep megalomaniacal control over it because that's the kind of human being I am.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one of those things where now that somebody else is doing it, I'm like, oh, I don't have to do this part. And it can still come out good. I think one of the things we're moving towards is there will be a future where I will finish the whole video, hand the memory card to Nate, and literally not look at it again until premiere day. I think that you have the ability and you have the self-management capability that at some point I'll be able to just hand you a stack of footage and be like, this thing's your problem now. I'm going back down to the shop.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to craft a video that'll be 100% as good as the video I would have done, and I just won't have to do it.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah, so that sounds like a great thing. Can you tell us a little bit about the projects that you're just getting going right now? You mentioned a podcast, and you mentioned YouTube and stuff that you're doing. Yes. What do you have going on?
What I have going on is actually 2 podcasts. Oh, yeah. I just need to get through this next rehearsal process so that I have time. But one is about just talking to Cleveland people in the theater space. So not just actors, but stage managers, directors, local playwrights, that sort of thing, of all skill levels. And then the second podcast is...
I don't know what this is, but I know it's going to be great.
The second podcast is going over the idea of us living in a simulation, as well as other views of reality.
Not Teal. Who's the guy who's the biggest one on simulation theory? Now we're both going to look stupid and not remember his name.
Yeah, especially because I probably just listened to him.
Well, there's a guy who's big on simulation theory. He thinks we're living in a simulation.
Yes, and I hear a lot of these conversations, and I always think, I wish I was there to ask this question.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why don't I just make myself a part of the conversation?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, so I'll be looking at that as well as all the other things that are out there, the idea of the multiverse and just all the different ways that people view reality as it is or could or might possibly one day be.
Wow, that is an ambitious product. I'm kind of glad that you're doing it and not me, because I honestly don't know how to approach that. So good for you. So anyway, I really wanted all of my patrons to get to know Nate because you guys are paying his salary. This would not be possible without Patreon. That is what makes this a viable business for me. You guys are the reason that Nate was able to come on. I'm looking at a couple of different people for a social media manager, marketing manager right now. I expect it's going to be a little while. Most of the people who I'm talking to are like, I'll manage your Instagram for you. And I'm thinking, yeah, I already do that. I need somebody who can market my stuff. And they look at me blankly when I say that. So I think it's going to be a little while before I actually get to hire a marketing person. But in the meantime, I have great help here and around the shop. Nate's gone with me on installs, and he's been a huge asset to the company. So thank you, all of you, for making this possible. New video on Saturday. See you soon.